there is some toxicity in the video game community. I want to be careful how I say this too, because, you know, we talked about the beauty community a few weeks ago.
Is the video game community toxic, Ben? Careful.
So in the same way the beauty community is, I think the gaming community has to acknowledge the toxicity within it. So just to recap, we did an Ask Us Anything episode a few weeks back, and one of the questions was, is the beauty community online toxic? And my position is that it is uniquely toxic in some ways. I think that's pretty obvious from...
But not every single person in the community is toxic. But
sure.
And in summary.
But I think it's pretty clear that there is toxicity within it. Systematically, even you could say. And I think you can say that based off the sort of discourse around beauty content and in terms of who some of the most popular beauty creators are on the platform, and the fact that chat rooms that like to talk about beauty content enjoy way more talking about negativity than just people doing makeup looks. I think it's kind of ironic that, you know, like subreddits that were super mad at me calling makeup superficial are kind of the best evidence of the fact of how negative the online beauty community is, because those are the people who have 24 pages of threads on Dramageddon, you know? But I think the mistake I made in that conversation is, one, I didn't really acknowledge that a guy just labeling makeup in general superficial is going to upset a lot of women because more women use makeup than men. So I wasn't really sensitive to that fact. And I really didn't mean to imply that anyone who uses makeup is superficial or dumb. And I also don't know why calling something superficial is like some huge insult. Like, I enjoy some goofy, frivolous, superficial things. Like, calling a topic superficial isn't like the worst thing you can say about something. But you very eloquently pushed back on my characterization and explained how a lot of people use makeup for artistic reasons. I think the point still holds that there is toxicity in the beauty community, and it is not just a function of the size of the beauty community. Because I saw some people saying that. It's just that the fact that there's millions of people who watch beauty content, so of course there's going to be some negativity within it. I don't think that explains the uniquely negative aspects of the beauty community, the same way I don't think it uniquely explains the negativity within the gaming community. And I think it's reasonable to ask if the substance or the subject matter of a community partly contributes or explains as to why there is negativity within it.
Interesting.
You hear what I'm saying?
So with video games, what's the connection there?
So I think with there, it's maybe a little bit simpler in the fact that just a lot of young men play video games. And I think any hobby or interest that is dominated by young men is going to have a certain element of misogyny and homophobia within it.
Almost like frat boy culture, but now we're talking about like video game culture where like a bunch of boys get together.
Sure. And the same way I clarified how I wanted to be careful with the beauty stuff. I want to be careful here because video games are $1 billion industry now. The vast majority of people who play games aren't guys hanging out on, 4chan complaining about transgender people appearing in video games or getting mad at video game journalists who are women. You know what I mean? Like, vast majority of people who play video games are probably perfectly decent people.
Yes.
So, but I think anyone who is invested in the gaming community, they probably know better than us as outsiders about how much negativity does exist within it and what the reasons for that might be.
And I bet you there's a lot of bias or discrimination against women who game, right?
I think we would be shocked. I would love to get a woman who streams video games for a living to get her on the podcast. And I bet they would invariably have like crazy stories about the sort of harassment and toxicity they face, right? And I won't say who, but even at a YouTube event, I remember we just happened to get into an elevator with another female creator who makes not only, but does some gaming content. And just in like that 30-second elevator interaction, the idea of how much harassment she gets for being a female gamer came up like very quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, you can't have a conversation about the online gaming community without acknowledging the sort of baggage and the negativity that does exist within that space too.
And that's something I've never had to face because always my audience has been 90% female just because of the nature of my content, I guess. So
Not that like a female audience isn't capable of being
No. I mean,
negative or
sorry, I meant
toxic.
negativity from like a sexist perspective.
Oh,
Is something
gotcha.
that I don't face often because my audience is 90% female.
I guess so. You're not, interacting in a space where you're not expected to be a certain gender or not.
Yeah.
Do you think if a man came along doing like nail art looks though, they'd face any sort of backlash? I don't think so.
I think they would, yeah, for sure. In the same way that when I painted your nails, there was a few comments, especially when the video got on trending, that like, oh, you let your girlfriend paint your nails, like, basically you're a simp. But that was before the term simp existed. But had it existed,
So that reaction would come from like people outside of that community, though. I think.
Yeah.
I feel like audiences of beauty content, maybe more than anything, are very accepting of men or women being.
Good point. So the 10% who are men, who this is just according to YouTube analytics, like that's just
Like 10% of
why
your
I'm saying
audience
that,
are
yeah,
men. Yeah.
are extremely supportive.
Yeah.
And I love their comments, and they love you, and they just love, just the acceptance of nail polish on anyone. So
Yeah.
I love the guys who watch my content.
And I'm sure there's a lot of people who watch gaming content too that are perfectly don't see it as an issue at all that they're watching a woman play video games, right?
Yeah.
One of my favorite gaming channels, by the way, is Girlfriend Reviews. Have you? I think
I
we
they showed me
watched a
one.
couple
I thought
videos.
it was funny, right?
It's a very unique take. It's basically, it's a review of a video game from the perspective of your partner watching their partner play the video
But the
game.
girlfriend, correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a while, she doesn't really like know much about the game, and that's why it's funny? Or does she really know everything?
It may have started that way, but clearly they
She
both
got invested?
participate in the
Interesting.
gameplay. But I think they grabbed onto a very unique perspective on video game reviews that really resonated with people. Because I think we underestimate how many people just enjoy being a passenger to watching people play video games. I guess you can't really relate to this, but like a lot of us growing up, if you had a sibling, probably are almost nostalgic about that feeling of watching someone else play video games.
I used to watch my dad play a bunch of video games,
Yeah.
including Tomb Raider,
Oh yeah,
Lara Croft,
with the pointy boobs back
yeah,
in
Tomb Raider,
1998.
Doom, Duke Nukem.
Oh, he really went for those
Yeah,
macho games.
he'd get home from work, and I'd be like, Dad, let's go play. But I'd make
Yeah.
him play because I was too scared. But I wanted to actually watch it. But I just never felt good enough, and I thought I would be killed.
Mm-hmm.
Weird. I'm just weird.